These were at each other's throats by 1520, as we know. For example, on April 17th, 1520, just about the time Martin Luther began his reformation of the church in East Germany, Prussia, bringing ideas of enlightenment to his people, we know the eclipse of the sun happened on that day. And that made the king of Bunyoro, Olimi Rwitamahanga II, to abandon Nkore, which was under Nyabugarowera at the time. This Rwitamahanga had crushed Nkore and kept it for about 6 months to a year. He had thoroughly conquered it and stayed in for more than a year. Those of you who travel on the road to Kabale, just after Lyantonde, before you enter Mbarara town, Biharwe, on your left-hand side, a very good man, James Tumsime, who owns Igongo, he's put up a monument that tells the story of this 17th of April 1520. You should pass there and see it. This Rwitamahanga from Bunyoro had, prior to this, killed King Nachibinge of Buganda at Mulago. He would go on to Ituri through Rwanda, and he died, it is suspected, in the Kivu area. At about the same time, the Imbangala people, the Umvimbundu people of Kasai region of the DRC, were trading with the Middle Eastern Arabs for ivory, tobacco, gold, guns, and crossing through Lake Tanganyika into Tanzania and connecting with groups from southern Uganda. Now, so this type of feudal raiding, however, disallowed the coalescence of a central uniting idea. And by 1862, when European interest in the hinterland of Africa peaked, we were not united around a common goal. We would not be able to stand together against a common external threat. This underlying weakness would follow us through to modern times as a country. At the time, we had pure feudal economies that would not sustain the growth of science and technology and the defense of our people. This is why by 1893, a company, a mere registered company, led by ex-servicemen, the Imperial British East African Company, which was a franchise of British government led by a Captain Lugard in Nigeria, in Egypt, and Uganda. He would pick up kingdoms and chiefdoms just like insects. Monarchies in South, Central, and Western Uganda, and what they call gerontocracies in the North, in Northwest and the Northeast of the country. He would pick them up easily. In fact, by the end of 1900, a fellow called Major MacDonald had concluded some 30 treaties with groups along the Nile after Buganda signed on March 10th, 1900. So what point do we make here in this very long sweep of history? One, if you do not have a central uniting idea, or let's call it an ideology of unity around common objectives, you cannot fight off invaders, be they of a political, social, economic, or spiritual nature. You do not have the means to resist, because cooperation is the beginning of knowledge and understanding and building stronger rafts to sail against enemies. You could ask, but China was invaded, and the British warships sailed up River Yangtze as well as River Ganges in India, even if these nations had a 5,000-year lead on civilization. Well, this is true, but for a slightly different reason. These nations were inward-looking, in my opinion, and they thought, as in the China case, that there was no other power on earth beyond China. The reason it was called the Middle Kingdom. The Chinese emperors believed that between the heavens and the earth, the entire middle is occupied by China. They became inward-looking. They lost the early lead in war technology, which they had developed between 900 and 1000 AD when they invented gunpowder. Number two, that there is nothing new in the world other than leadership and the spirit of thrift, hard work, and unity. History turns so little. It's the reason we repeat mistakes and not learn from them. All the nations we admire and the leaders that exerted themselves had leaders that exerted themselves at particular epochs in history. They drove their people to change. This means, of all the major weaknesses we have to fight off today, it is the weakness of poor organization. I thank you. you.